I was sitting in a coffee shop this morning, just doing the usual routine, checking emails, streaming some high-res music, scrolling through a news feed.
The modern morning ritual.
Right. And I was syncing this massive video file up to the cloud at the same time, and it hit me just how effortless it all feels.
You're really dead.
It's like air. The internet just surrounds us.
Yeah.
It's invisible, it's ubiquitous, and honestly, we only really notice it when it stops. We treat it like this magical, weightless resource that's just granted to us by nature.
It is a beautiful illusion, isn't it?
It is.
But that's exactly what it is, an illusion. Because if we were to pull back the curtain, or I guess pull back the surface of the ocean, well, pull it back, we wouldn't see magic.
No.
We wouldn't see air. We'd
Yeah.
see thick, heavy, physical cables snaking across the bottom of the seabed,
Right.
covered in silt, subjected to immense pressure, and occasionally nibbled on by curious marine life,
Way to just completely kill the vibe immediately.
just grounding us in reality.
You're right, though, and that stark contrast between the internet as air and the internet as heavy machinery, that is exactly where we're heading today.
Yes.
We are doing a deep dive into a really fascinating set of notes. It's titled AI in a Time of Transition, Why I'm Not Done Writing by Tommy Yoshida.
Specifically, we're focusing on a section of his writings regarding AI as a transitional phase.
Right.
And I want to clarify something right off the bat here, because the title says AI.
Yeah, and I know everyone's ears just perked up.
Exactly. They're expecting a chat about large language models, chatbots, or, how to automate your job away.
Right. If you are here for a tutorial on how to prompt engineer your way to $1 million, this is not that deep dive.
Not at all. Yoshida is using this transitional phase concept to explore something much more fundamental. He's looking at dependency, redundancy, and this very philosophical but urgent question.
Which is,
What do we have to return to?
it's surprisingly grounding stuff.
Fine.
And the source material actually kicks off with something that feels, I don't know, it feels like it belongs in a corporate thriller, not a philosophical essay.
Yeah, it starts with a security event.
The catalyst.
Right. Yoshida describes seeing a report about a local company getting hit by malware. And we aren't talking about a minor glitch or a spam email here.
No, this was the full nightmare scenario.
Total lockdown.
Data encryption and a ransom demand. You turn on your computer and everything you built, everything you know, is locked behind a paywall created by a criminal.
And Yoshida's immediate reaction to reading this report was pretty standard for someone who thinks about tech.
Sure.
He initially wanted to write about the importance of offline backups,
Right, the classic eat your vegetables advice of the IT world.
which is valid advice. I mean, everyone should have a backup.
They really should. But here is where the notes take a fascinating turn.
Yes.
He started writing about backups, but then he just stopped.
He pivoted entirely. He realized that in our current era, this era of the cloud, of software as a service, of constant connectivity advice about offline backups, is almost quaint.
Yeah.
Or at least it's vastly more complicated than it used to be.
Because it's not just about files on a hard drive anymore. It's not just a Word document you can copy to a USB stick.
Think about it.
Yeah.
We don't really own software anymore.
No, we rent it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We rent it. We don't just store files. We sync them across dynamic platforms.
Right.
If your data is actually a complex web of interactions on a SaaS platform, say, a project management tool with comments, links, active calendars, you can't just put that on a thumb drive.
That is such a good point. If I get locked out of my Google Workspace or my project management software, I can't just restore that from an external hard drive.
The context is totally gone.
The environment is gone. The incident forced him to ask a deeper question. In a world where we rely on external services for everything, what do we actually own? If the system locks us out, whether it's a hacker, a server outage, or even a billing dispute, what do we have to go back to?
That is a chilling thought.
It really is. I mean, I live in the cloud. My photos are there. My documents are there. My music is streamed.
It's convenient.
I love it because it just works. I don't have to carry a hard drive around in my backpack.
But Yoshida is pointing out that this convenience is actually a massive vulnerability.
Yeah.
It creates a state of total dependency. When he asks, what do we really have to go back to? He's challenging the stability of our entire digital foundation.
And that train of thought took him from a single company's malware problem all the way to the bottom of the ocean.
Which brings us back to those cables.
I love this pivot in the source material so much. He goes from my local computer to global infrastructure in one breath.
It's a great connection.
He writes about how the internet feels like air, but then reminds us it's physical lines. And he brings up the specific context of Japan.
Which is crucial for understanding vulnerability.
All right.
Japan is an island nation, deeply modern, highly technological, but geographically it is isolated.
Very isolated.
The vast, vast majority of its international traffic, we're talking communication, finance, entertainment, relies on undersea cables.
You know, I think most people, myself included, honestly assume it's all satellites now.
Like it just beams up to space. Yeah.
Doesn't my data beam up to space and come back down? We see rocket launches every other week.
It is a great marketing narrative.
Right.
But the physics tell a completely different story.
Okay.
Over 95%, maybe closer to 99% of international data traffic is subsea.
99%?
Yes.
Nice.
It's not space. It's the ocean. It's fiber optic cables, roughly the width of a garden hose.
A garden hose.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're wrapped in layers of steel, plastic, and copper for power, but the actual glass fibers carrying the data, hair thin.
Hey, wow.
And they're sitting in the silt, subjected to massive pressure, anchors dragging over them, geological shifts.
That image is so much more vulnerable than the cloud.
Come on.
The cloud sounds fluffy and invincible. A garden hose at the bottom of the ocean sounds extremely breakable.
And it is breakable. Yoshida points out that while this design isn't accidental, it has redundancy, there are multiple cables, traffic reroutes. If one breaks, we're way too confident in it.
So if a cable breaks, we just switch to another one. What's the problem?
The problem is capacity. And this brings us to the concept in the source material that really stuck with me.
Okay.
The danger of the thinning line.
Thinning. That's a weird word to use for the internet.
Why is that?
Well, usually we talk about on or off. I have a signal or I don't. I have Wi-Fi or I don't.
And that binary thinking is exactly the trap.
Okay.
We worry about a blackout, a total off state. But Yoshida argues the more insidious risk is when the capacity drops.
A brownout.
Exactly. Imagine if a few major cables are damaged or overwhelmed. The internet doesn't necessarily disappear.
It crawls.
It slows. Service becomes uneven. Bandwidth is prioritized. And he asks, then what happens to how we function?
Oh, man. Imagine trying to run a modern business, or even just your daily life, if the internet was working at 1999 speeds.
It's actually worse than that.
How so?
We've built our entire society, our workflows, logistics, communication styles, around the assumption of high-speed, instant transfer.
Right.
Modern software is chatty. It constantly pings servers. If that line thins, we don't just wait longer for a web page to load.
Oh, systems time out.
Yes.
I see. It's not just a matter of patience, it's function.
Precisely. If latency gets too high, the API connection between your bank and the vendor fails.
Right.
The two-factor authentication code doesn't arrive in time, so the login times out. Video calls become impossible, not just grainy.
Automated trading algorithms go haywire.
Exactly. So the infrastructure is technically there, but it's no longer supporting the weight of the society we built on top of it.
It changes how we operate fundamentally.
We become paralyzed not by a lack of connection, but by the degradation of it.
It's like we're driving a Formula One car and suddenly the road turns to gravel.
That's a great way to put it.
The car doesn't just go slower. It might just stop working entirely.
It tears itself apart.
And naturally, when we hear about these vulnerabilities, cables getting cut, systems slowing down, the human instinct is to look for a savior, a quick fix.
Yes.
And you mentioned satellites earlier. The source material brings up this satellite solution trap.
The why don't we just use Starlink argument.
Right. Why don't we just move everything to space?
Yoshida warns against this. He says it's tempting to go to extremes, to say use only satellites, but that is far too simple.
Why is it too simple? I mean, satellites don't get cut by anchors on the ocean floor. They seem inherently safer.
They don't get cut by anchors, true, but they have their own vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Solar flares, space debris.
Good point.
But more importantly, it's a physics problem regarding bandwidth density.
Okay, break that down for us.
Undersea cables use fiber optics, light.
Right.
Light can carry an obscene amount of data.
Yeah.
Satellites largely use radio waves. While they are improving rapidly, they currently cannot match the sheer throughput of a fiber optic backbone on a global scale.
So it's basically a plumbing issue.
Exactly.
The pipe in the sky just isn't big enough to replace the pipe in the ocean.
Satellites are amazing for reach. Getting internet to a mountaintop, a plain, or a rural village where laying cable is just impossible.
Sure.
But for connecting Tokyo to San Francisco and carrying the entire data load of two major economies,
You need the glass in the ocean.
you need the glass in the ocean.
So it's not about swapping one for the other.
No. And this is the core philosophical point of the deep dive today. It's not about finding the perfect technology.
Right.
It's not about saying cables are bad, satellites are good, or vice versa. It is about avoiding a single point of failure.
A single point of failure. That seems to be the golden thread tying this whole thing together.
It connects the micro to the macro. Think about it. At the micro level, the local company that got hit by ransomware, their single point of failure was having all their data online, encrypted, with no offline backup.
Right. They had no plan B.
At the macro level, a country like Japan relying solely on undersea cables without adequate diversity or backup plans. That's a single point of failure.
And for us as individuals.
If your entire digital life, your memories, financial records, your identity is in one cloud account and you get locked out.
Single point of failure.
Exactly.
It's terrifying when you frame it like that. It makes me want to go buy a stack of external hard drives right now.
Which actually is what Yoshida talks about doing.
Right. He describes his own habits.
And remember, he clarifies he is not a security expert.
No.
He's not a policymaker. He calls himself just a user. But a user who has been paying attention.
So what does he actually do? Because I feel like we could all learn from this. It feels like he's building a survival kit, but for data.
Two main things.
Mhm.
First, as you guessed, he backs up important data offline.
Okay.
He physically removes it from the air of the internet and puts it on something tangible.
Step 1. Buy the drive. Copy the files.
But step 2 is the one everyone misses. And honestly, it is the most critical step.
What is it?
He explicitly checks if recovery actually works.
Oh, that is the Schrodinger's backup problem.
Exactly.
You have a backup, but until you actually try to restore from it, you don't really know if it exists or if it's just corrupted junk.
I see this all the time in the corporate world. Companies spend millions on backups.
Right.
Then a crash happens, they go to the tapes or the cold storage, and they realize the files are unreadable,
Wow.
or the software needed to read them is completely obsolete.
So Yoshida actually sits down and tries to restore his data.
He simulates the disaster. He asks, if the internet stops, can I get back to where I was?
That is the litmus test for safety.
Yes. It's not about building a wall so high that nothing can ever hurt you. It's about knowing that if the wall falls, you can rebuild.
Safety is the ability to recover.
Precisely.
You know, he mentions that this isn't done out of fear. He's not a Luddite. He admits the cloud is useful.
He's not saying reject modernity at all.
No, he acknowledges the convenience. He uses the cloud. But he refuses to trust it as the sole place.
It's about maintaining a place to return to.
I really love that phrase, a place to return to. It sounds almost spiritual, but he means it very literally.
Very literally.
If the digital world dissolves, where is your solid ground?
And that leads us to the big open question that Yoshida leaves us with. And honestly, it's a question that we as a society haven't really answered yet.
Which is, who is responsible?
Yes. Who designs this ability to return? Who ensures that we have that solid ground?
It's such a messy question. Is it the government? Like, should they be guarding the cables and subsidizing the backups? We expect them to maintain roads and bridges?
Infrastructure is usually the state's job. But the internet is weird.
Yeah.
It's largely privately owned. The cables are owned by consortiums of telecom companies and tech giants like Google and Meta.
So is it the corporations then? The service providers? Should Google and Microsoft be responsible for ensuring we can function without them?
But their incentive is profit and efficiency, not necessarily 100-year resilience.
Right.
If a cable route isn't profitable, they might not fix it or upgrade it.
Or is it us, the individual? Is it my job to be my own IT department?
That feels like a heavy burden for, say, my grandmother.
Exactly.
The source material suggests we are in a time of transition, precisely because these roles are undefined.
We're sleepwalking through this phase where we assume the internet is nature.
That it's air.
Right, and so we assume someone, somewhere, is taking care of it.
But it's a built environment. And like any built environment, it needs stewardship.
It's like we moved into a house without checking if the foundation was poured, just because the lights turned on when we flipped the switch.
That is a perfect analogy. And Yoshida doesn't offer a final answer. He says, I don't have an answer yet, but I keep thinking.
And that openness is part of the point.
Yes. We need to stop assuming the problem is solved and start actively thinking about it.
It really recontextualizes the whole AI title, too. We are so focused on the shiny new toy AI that we're forgetting the shelf we're putting it on is wobbling.
Yes, AI is the transition, but the infrastructure underneath it, the cables, the data centers, the ownership of our data, that is the ground.
Right.
And if the ground shakes, doesn't matter how smart the AI is.
In fact, an AI-driven world requires more stability.
More bandwidth, more uptime.
We're building higher skyscrapers on the same old foundation.
And just hoping the wind doesn't blow too hard.
Let's pivot back to that idea of the thinning line for a second, because I think that's the most likely scenario for the listener.
I agree.
We probably won't see the entire internet vanish tomorrow, but we might see it get expensive or slow or gated.
That is the realistic dystopia. Not a bang, but a whimper.
Right.
Imagine a world where high-speed, reliable access becomes a luxury good, or where geopolitical tensions squeeze those undersea cables so that traffic is prioritized.
So, if I'm listening to this, and I'm just a regular person, I'm not a tech CEO, not a government official, what does this actually mean for me?
It means you need to audit your own dependency. Look at your life. If your internet connection dropped to dial-up speeds for a month, or if your main cloud account was locked, could you function?
Could I access my bank records?
Yes.
Could I find my kid's birth certificate? Could I contact my family?
Exactly. A lot of identity verification is now purely online. If you can't access the portal, do you have a physical copy?
And if the answer is no, then you lack a return point.
You're floating in the air without a landing strip.
And that's what Yoshida is doing. He's building his landing strip.
He is. And he's suggesting that this mindset, this architectural thinking, applies to everything.
It applies to how we run our companies. Don't build business models that collapse if an API goes down for 6 hours.
It applies to how nations plan their grids.
And how we manage our personal memories.
It's interesting how this connects to the malware catalyst again.
Yeah.
That local company paid a ransom because they had no choice. They had no return point.
They were held hostage by their own efficiency.
They streamlined everything into one system, and when that system failed, they were helpless.
Redundancy feels like a total waste of money and time, until the exact moment it becomes the most valuable thing you own.
Efficiency versus resilience. It's the classic battle.
And in a time of transition, we usually skew way too far toward efficiency.
We always want the fastest, cheapest, easiest thing.
Right.
Yoshida's the voice in the room saying, slow down. Check the backup. Look at the cables.
Look at the cables under the ocean. I am never going to look at a loading bar the same way again.
It's not just pixels.
No, it's a signal traveling through a glass wire deep underwater, just hoping nothing breaks.
And hoping that the system designed to route that signal keeps working.
It is a miracle of engineering.
But it is not magic. It requires maintenance.
So let's bring this home. We started with a ransom note on a screen, and we ended up discussing the geopolitical stability of undersea infrastructure.
A classic deep dive journey.
Truly, the takeaways here are pretty stark. The internet is not air. It's physical. It's fragile.
And relying on it 100% without a plan B is a very risky gamble.
And the solution isn't to reject the tech, it's to understand it.
Understand that satellites aren't a magic fix, and the cloud isn't a charity.
And to make sure you have a place to return to.
That is the key. Whether you are a CEO or just someone with a lot of digital photos.
Right.
Define your safety by your ability to recover, not your ability to avoid problems.
I want to leave you, the listener, with this thought, and it's building on what Yoshida left unfinished.
Okay.
We talked about the line thinning, that slow degradation of service.
The slow squeeze.
Right. In a world of infinite cloud storage and invisible APIs, ask yourself this. Do you actually know where your data lives?
Physically.
Not just in the cloud, but physically. Which box is it in? And if that line thinned tomorrow, if the invisible air turned into a very visible, very slow crawl, would you be able to function?
Or are you just sitting there waiting for someone else to design your recovery plan?
And if you are waiting for someone else, you might be waiting a really long time.
On that cheerful note.
But seriously, go back up your data. Check your recovery. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's always a pleasure to explore the infrastructure of our reality.
We will see you next time. Stay curious and stay backed up.